So we have been talking a lot about Project 2025. Republicans and the Trump team want to distance themselves from each other. They want us to stop talking about it so much. They are like, it's not such a big deal, but we're going to keep talking about it because it is seriously a handbook on how they want to take us to the Handmaid's Tale reality version for 2025. We're going to talk about this. Now, what's wild is this man, Kevin Roberts, was so bold, and they created videos and all this stuff. This man was set to release his book in September, but now, because Project 2025 was so unpopular, it's being released after the election. Y'all have got to see this article. This man, from the excerpts that people were able to get their hands on, is railing against IVF, obviously smomortion, and dog parks, because y'all know what dog parks represent: women having some companionship that's not a baby. Let's get into this article. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts, the mastermind behind the widely publicized Project 2025, rails against IVF, smomortion, contraceptives, childless adults, women, and even dog parks in his upcoming book, according to a new report. He touts the long list of boogeymen as examples of anti-family culture promoted by the U.S. government in the book titled Dawn's Early Light: Taking Back Washington to Save America, according to excerpts published by the liberal watchdog group Media Matters for America. In particular, Roberts takes aim at IVF, the fertilization procedure that has proven largely popular among Americans, according to data published by the Pew Research. IVF seems to assist fertility, but has the added effect of incentivizing women to delay trying to start a family, often leading to added problems when the time comes. It also allows women to control themselves as far as, when they are going to step out of a career, if they want a man involved, if they even want to have kids. It's just a possibility. It gives women too much control over this process to where women don't have to just run and then just hook up with a man simply to have a kid. That's the reason why they have come for IVF. At first, it was just like, what is this? Why are they doing this? Because they don't want women to have too much control. They need women to be in a constant panic about having babies if they choose to have babies. Earlier this year, a controversial Alabama Supreme Court decision found that frozen embryos counted as children, forcing hospitals in the southern state to effectively shut down the practice for fear of prosecution should the embryos become damaged. And that's when all of this talk about embryos being children and then IVF and them coming for IVF, it was all very strange to me. But after we started having these conversations, it's like, oh, okay, I see why they're coming for it. The backlash against the Alabama High Court's decision was so rapid and so harsh, it forced the state's Republican-dominated legislature to quickly pass a law to protect the treatments and shield healthcare providers from being sued or prosecuted for providing such treatments. Former President Donald Trump also quickly came out against the decision, and his staff circulated a memo encouraging Republican legislators to support improving access to IVF. The thing is, these people do things that are so unpopular. Like, they do things that are unpopular within people that would vote for them, but they're doing things that are just like, why are you doing this? This is like unforced errors, but I love it because it's going to make people really second guess voting for somebody that are so willy-nilly with scrapping things that they want. According to leaked excerpts, Roberts considers IVF a contraceptive technology, which he defines as one of the revolutionary inventions that shape American culture away from abundance, marriage, and family. He blames these factors for rising termination rates. The number of terminations in the U.S. actually began falling in the 1990s, reaching a low point in 2017. So abortion rates have since sharply risen, according to data collected by the Guttmacher Institute. This is especially true after the Dobbs decision, where the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade and allowed states to pass these strict bans. What is wild is they are so anti-contraception and anti-abortion, But it's just like they really just need to say we're anti women making their own decisions for their bodies because women should just be incubators. Okay, this part. Although Trump has since tried to distance himself from Project 2025, his VP pick, Senator JD Vance, wrote the foreword for Roberts' book. This right here is a hyperlink. Let's click on it. JD Vance writes in Project 2025 Head's book, Load the Muskets. The muskets, y'all. He's taking it back to Revolutionary War times. Although the architect of Project 2025 was ousted by the Trump campaign on Tuesday, the former president's running mate, Ohio Senator JD Vance, has contributed to a book written by Kevin Roberts supporting the proposal. The contents of Vance's introduction of Dawn's Early Light were published by the New Republic, who accessed an advanced copy of the book before it was pulled by the publisher. Vance heaps praise on Roberts' book, calling it profound and possessing real intellectual vigor. Some of Vance's comments in the foreword mirror his widely publicized views on marriage and controversial past statements expressing skepticism over no fault divorce. We should encourage our kids to get married and have kids. We should teach them that marriage isn't just a contract, but a sacred and, to the extent possible, lifelong union. We should discourage them from behaviors that threaten the stability of their family, Vance wrote. However, in the same paragraph, Vance also calls for policies that will create better jobs, protect American industries, and otherwise help Americans support their families. That means listening to our young people who are telling us they can't afford to buy a home or start a family, not just criticizing them for a lack of virtue. He ends the column with a violent call to action for conservative readers. We are now all realizing it's time to circle the wagons and load the muskets. These ideas are an essential weapon. That is what they're talking about. But the wild thing is, he is mirroring things that he has been saying, and he is connected to Project 2025, despite the fact that the Trump team and the Republican Party want to separate Trump and Project 2025. Now, back to the original article. Vance also came under fire last week for past comments describing Democratic voters and legislators, lawmakers, as childless cat ladies, a bizarre theme Roberts echoed in his book by taking aim at a different species of pet, dogs. In another excerpt from the book, highlighted by Media Matters, Roberts decries the Swamp Poodle Dog Park and Playground, a small green space in DC's Noma neighborhood, for allegedly prioritizing space for dogs over playground equipment for children. He claims the dog park is an example of the anti-family culture shaping legislation, regulation, and enforcement throughout our sprawling government. Y'all, the way some of these men, these red pillars, these people come for people with pets or women with pets, it is wild. But yes, women are choosing pets, and you can see it in the birth rate because the birth rate is plummeting to hell. So yeah, maybe instead of coming for women, they need to come for men to be better partners and be better humans and see women as more than incubators, but they won't do it. They can't do it. They don't know how to turn their brains on to the setting that sees women as human beings and not an incubator. So this was an article from about a week ago talking about him postponing his own book until after the election. As Project 2025 hits turmoil, the head of the influential far-right Heritage Foundation is postponing the release of his potentially fiery new book until after the presidential election. Kevin Roberts, who took over Project 2025 as part of a leadership shakeup amid blowback over its recommendations for a potential Donald Trump White House, said Wednesday he is focused on defeating presumptive Democratic nominee Kamala Harris. Trump's running mate JD Vance, we already said that he wrote the foreword. He said there's a time for writing, reading, and book tours, and a time to put down the books and go fight like hell to take back our country. So that is the excuse, but it's because this has been an albatross. It's been an anchor that is pulling them down, deservedly so. Now, let's circle back to JD Vance. JD Vance has an audio where he's talking about how his mother in law was able to take a year off of work and come and sit with them because they had a newborn baby. And he's actually married to a brown woman who is a career woman. So he tells this story in this audio, but he also is on record calling childcare an attack on working poor, which is really weird. And I don't know how he got to that point, but regardless, women do need childcare. Women do need affordable childcare, and childcare as it stands in the United States is scarce. Also, obviously, something that has been talked about from women, maternity leave is paltry if it's available at all. Family leave is paltry. So him using this story of his mother-in-law being able to take a year off is something that not everybody has access to. Anyways, go ahead, listen to this audio. Let me know what you think about all of this put together. And don't forget to like, comment, and share.
And you can sort of see the effect it has on him to be around them. Like, they spoil him. There's sort of all the classic stuff that grandparents do to grandchildren. But it makes him a much better human being to have exposure to his grandparents.
Well, I don't know.
And the evidence on this, by the way, is like super clear.
That's the whole purpose of the postmenopausal female in theory. Did your in-laws, and particularly your mother-in-law, show up in some huge way?
She lived with us for a year.
Right.
So,
So I didn't know the answer to that.
Right. No.
Because that's this weird unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman.
No, it's in some ways the most transgressive thing I've ever done against sort of the hyper neoliberal approach to work and family. My wife had this baby 7 weeks before she started the clerkship. It was still not sleeping any more than an hour and a half in a given interval. And her mom just took a sabbatical. She's a biology professor in California. Just took a sabbatical for a year and came and lived with us and took care of our kid for a year.
Okay.
So it was just one of these things where it's like, this is what you do.
So a biology professor, PhD.
Yes.
Drops what they're doing.
Yeah.
To immediately tend to the needs of a new mother with her infant.
Painfully economically inefficient. Right?
Can I just propose
why didn't she just keep her job, give us part of the wages to pay somebody else to do it, right? Because that is the thing that the hyper liberalized economics wants you to do. The economic logic of always prioritizing paid wage labor over other forms of contributing to a society is to me, it's actually a consequence of a sort of fundamental liberalism that is ultimately going to unwind and collapse upon itself. I think it's the abandonment of a sort of Aristotelian virtue politics for a hyper market oriented way of thinking about what's good and what's desirable. If people are paying for it and it contributes to GDP and it makes the economic consumption numbers rise, then it's good. And if it doesn't, it's bad. I think that entire sort of, to me, that's sort of the root of our political problem